It's be a great deal of pleasure at this time to
The Amish are well known for living a very simple life, avoiding most aspects of modern society. As a deeply religious Christian group, many of their customs come from their strong faith. However, that's not the whole picture. They follow interesting customs, traditions, and practices that have been passed down through generations. Like any other cultural community, some of their traditions have been influenced by outside factors. One of the most surprising events takes place on the wedding night. To truly understand any culture, it helps to explore its traditions. So, join us as we dive into Amish customs that are sure to astonish you. Clothing. The Amish are recognized for their modest way of dressing. Men wear plain-colored shirts, wide-brimmed hats, and suits that create a sense of uniformity among them. Amish men grow beards as a sign of maturity and marriage, while also promoting humility. They are not allowed to have mustaches because mustaches have long been linked to the military, which they strongly oppose due to their peaceful beliefs. Amish women also follow strict dress rules, which are outlined in the Ordnung, their version of laws. They must wear dresses that reach their calves, in muted colors, along with aprons and bonnets. The bonnets and prayer caps worn by women serve as visible symbols of their faith and reinforce unity, as every woman wears one. The color of the bonnet indicates if a woman is married or single. Single women wear black bonnets, while married women wear white. This color distinction is important because Amish women do not wear jewelry, including wedding rings, as jewelry is considered a way of drawing attention to oneself, which can lead to pride. All Amish clothing is handmade, but how it is fastened depends on whether someone belongs to the Old Order or New Order Amish. The Old Order Amish rarely, if ever, use buttons, as they are considered too decorative. Instead, they use hooks and eyes or metal snaps. On the other hand, the New Order Amish are a little more open to change and allow the use of buttons to fasten clothing. And this isn't even the most puzzling tradition. Beards without mustaches. Once Amish men get married, they are expected to grow beards and are not allowed to shave them. This has become one of their most recognizable features, and its origins can be traced back to biblical teachings about men's beards. But why don't they have mustaches? Is there a religious rule against them? No, the reason for having beards without mustaches is entirely different. The Amish are pacifists, meaning they are strictly against violence. Because the military is connected to war, they want nothing to do with it. Up until 1916, British soldiers were required to grow mustaches. Before and during the American Revolution, when Britain occupied parts of America, they looked down on people who refused to fight, including the Amish. To separate themselves from military culture, the Amish decided not to wear mustaches along with their beards. Stay with us for more surprising facts. Amish baptism. In the Amish faith, baptism is a crucial and life-changing decision that young members must make as they enter adulthood. Unlike many other Christian denominations where baptism happens in infancy or childhood, Amish youth have the freedom to decide for themselves. This choice is typically made in their late teenage years or early 20s. If they choose to be baptized, they are making a lifelong commitment to the Amish way of life, vowing to uphold its religious beliefs, cultural practices, and moral standards. Baptism is not just a religious ritual, it is a declaration of obedience to the Ordnung, the unwritten but strictly followed set of rules that governs Amish life. The Ordnung details everything from dress codes to behavior, work ethics, and social expectations. By undergoing baptism, the individual submits to these rules and agrees to remain faithful to them for the rest of their life. This commitment is taken very seriously because it signifies full membership in the Amish church and community. However, those who fail to honor their commitment face serious consequences. If a baptized member breaks the church's rules and refuses to repent, they are excommunicated and subjected to a practice known as shunning. Shunning is a form of social exclusion meant to preserve the spiritual integrity of the church. The Pennsylvania Amish, like other Amish communities, make efforts to guide those who stray back to the right path. They encourage them to admit their mistakes, seek forgiveness, and realign themselves with the church's values. If the individual continues to defy the church's rules, the community has no choice but to enforce full shunning. This means that the person is cut off from all social interactions with the Amish, including their own family and closest friends. They are no longer allowed to share meals, conduct business, or even engage in casual conversation with Amish members. This practice is not common, as the Amish value harmony and unity, but when necessary, it serves as a powerful tool to uphold their way of life. Selection of Amish ministers. Unlike in many other religious communities, where clergy members attend seminaries and undergo formal religious training, the Amish have a unique approach to selecting their ministers. Their belief system emphasizes humility and divine guidance rather than personal ambition or academic qualifications. In each Amish district, there are typically 2 or 3 ministers, a deacon and a bishop, with the bishop often overseeing multiple districts. In the Amish tradition, no one studies theology in preparation for ministry, nor do individuals volunteer or express a desire to become a preacher. Instead, ministers are chosen through a process known as selection by lot. When a new minister is needed, either due to the passing of an existing minister or because a district has grown too large and needs to split, the church follows a deeply spiritual process to determine who will serve. The announcement of an upcoming minister selection is made at least 2 weeks before the communion service. During this time, the community engages in prayer and meditation, asking for God's guidance in the process. Unlike political or corporate elections, there is no discussion or campaigning about who should be chosen. The Amish believe that human intervention should not play a role in selecting their spiritual leaders, as only God knows who is truly fit for the responsibility. After the communion service, each member of the congregation votes privately, submitting the names of those they believe would be good candidates. Any man who receives at least 3 votes is considered a finalist. These finalists each choose a hymnal from a collection prepared by church elders. Hidden inside one of the hymnals is a slip of paper containing a verse from the Bible. The man who selects the hymnal with the verse is considered to have been chosen by God to serve as the new minister. This selection is seen as a heavy responsibility rather than a position of honor or power. Ministers do not receive a salary and must continue working their regular jobs, whether as farmers, craftsmen, or business owners, while also fulfilling their religious duties. In most Amish districts, a man cannot be baptized unless he is willing to accept the possibility of being chosen as a minister. It is generally understood that the selected minister will be married, as marriage is seen as an essential foundation for leadership in the community. The event of selecting a minister is one of the most deeply emotional and spiritually significant moments in Amish life. It reinforces the community's faith in divine will and their commitment to maintaining a church led by individuals chosen by God rather than by human ambition. Given the size of Amish communities, it is inevitable that members will pass away regularly. This raises the question, how do the Amish handle death and funerals? Funeral preparations. The Amish approach death with the same simplicity and humility that define their way of life. Their funeral customs reflect their deep religious beliefs, their emphasis on community, and their rejection of worldly extravagance. While Amish funeral traditions vary slightly across different settlements, those in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, follow specific practices that have been passed down for generations. When a member of the Amish community passes away, the body is typically entrusted to a local funeral director who is familiar with Amish customs and respects their traditions. Before the undertaker arrives, close family members may take it upon themselves to gently wash and prepare the body as an act of love and respect. This practice of washing the body is rooted in their belief in humility and care for the deceased. The coffin itself is also modest and unique to Amish customs. Instead of a traditional rectangular casket, Amish coffins are 6-sided and handcrafted, usually by Amish woodworkers. The lid consists of 2 hinged panels that can be folded down, allowing mourners to view the upper half of the body. The interior is lined with fabric that is not commercially produced, but is made by the Amish themselves, ensuring that even in death, the community maintains self-sufficiency and simplicity. Sermons and burial. As soon as the death is confirmed, word spreads quickly throughout the Amish community. Relatives, friends, and fellow church members are notified, and an obituary is published in the local newspaper. Amish funerals are usually held 3 days after death, allowing time for family and friends to travel and pay their respects. Before the actual funeral service, people gather at the home of the deceased to view the body. Unlike modern wakes, where visitors often engage in casual conversation, the Amish maintain a deeply respectful and somber atmosphere. Dressed in black, men and women sit quietly in separate rooms, reflecting on the life of the departed. Visitors greet the grieving family members with brief words of condolence before being led to the coffin, where a simple white cloth is pulled back to reveal the face of the deceased. One notable aspect of Amish funerals is that no makeup or cosmetics are used on the body. What is seen is natural, without embellishment, as a reflection of the Amish belief in honesty and humility. On the day of the funeral, the service takes place in the home rather than in a church. Amish ministers deliver sermons, but they do not eulogize or glorify the deceased. Instead, their focus remains on biblical teachings, often referencing the story of creation and emphasizing the importance of faith, salvation, and the afterlife. This practice serves as a reminder to the living about their own spiritual journey rather than placing undue attention on the individual who has passed. After the funeral service, a solemn procession of horse-drawn buggies makes its way to the cemetery. The number of buggies in attendance is often so large that each one is marked with a number written in chalk to maintain order. The coffin is transported in a hearse, which is not a motorized vehicle, but a traditional enclosed wooden carriage drawn by a horse. Lancaster County is home to about 20 Amish cemeteries, and each follows a pattern of simplicity and uniformity. The gravestones are modest, typically listing only the name, birth date, death date, and age of the deceased in years, months, and days. Some older cemeteries still have inscriptions in German, reflecting the Amish's European roots, while newer ones use English. At the cemetery, the grave is already dug before the arrival of the funeral procession. There is no singing during the burial, only a reading of a traditional hymn by the minister or bishop as the grave is filled by pallbearers. The final moment of the service is the silent recitation of the Lord's Prayer. After the burial, some attendees return to the home of the deceased's family, where a simple meal is shared. There is no elaborate gathering or feast, only a quiet time for loved ones to come together, reflect, and support one another in their grief. Carpentry crafts. When people think of the Amish, one of the first things that comes to mind is their exceptional skill in woodworking. Carpentry is not just a profession among the Amish. It is a deeply ingrained tradition that reflects their values of craftsmanship, self-reliance, and simplicity. From a young age, Amish boys learn the trade by working alongside their fathers and grandfathers, mastering techniques that have been passed down for generations. Barn raising is one of the most well-known aspects of Amish carpentry, where entire communities come together to construct barns in a single day. However, their expertise extends beyond barns to include furniture making, home building, and the construction of schoolhouses and other communal structures. One of the most remarkable aspects of Amish carpentry is that it is done without the use of modern electrical tools. Instead, they rely on hand tools and traditional techniques, making their work incredibly labor-intensive, but also highly skilled. Their refusal to use public electricity is not merely a rejection of convenience, but a deliberate choice to avoid dependence on modern technology that could disrupt their way of life. Despite these limitations, Amish-made furniture and wooden goods are widely recognized for their durability and craftsmanship, often sought after by non-Amish buyers. Amish cuisine. Food plays a significant role in Amish culture, bringing people together for communal meals, celebrations, and social gatherings. Amish cuisine is characterized by its simplicity, hearty flavors, and reliance on fresh, locally sourced ingredients. Amish meals often include homemade bread, preserves, pickled vegetables, and an abundance of baked goods, such as pies, cakes, and cookies. Many Amish families sell their homemade food products at markets, offering customers traditional favorites like shoofly pie, whoopie pies, and apple butter. In addition, some Amish communities operate small restaurants that serve traditional dishes, giving visitors a taste of authentic Amish cooking. While Amish food is sometimes mistaken for Pennsylvania Dutch cuisine, the two are not identical. The Amish have unique culinary traditions influenced by their religious beliefs and cultural practices. Their cuisine has also evolved over time, adapting to regional ingredients and food preservation methods. Food anthropologists have studied these traditions through fieldwork and historical records, uncovering the ways Amish culinary practices have changed while still maintaining their core values. Strange nicknames. One of the more humorous and charming Amish traditions is their use of unusual nicknames. Because Amish families tend to be large, with many children named after relatives, common names like John and Mary are extremely frequent within a single community. To avoid confusion, the Amish developed a tradition of assigning nicknames that help distinguish between individuals. Some nicknames are based on a person's father's name, such as John Eli's John, to specify which John is being referred to. However, in cases where multiple generations share the same name, things can get more creative, leading to amusing nicknames like Double John. These names may seem odd to outsiders, but within the Amish community, they serve an important practical purpose: horse and buggy transport. One of the most iconic aspects of Amish life is their continued use of horse-drawn buggies for transportation. Unlike the rest of modern society, the Amish do not own or drive cars. This is not simply a matter of preference, but a religious belief rooted in their desire to remain separate from the influences of the outside world. While cars offer speed and convenience, the Amish see them as a threat to their community's unity and values. By traveling in a horse-drawn buggy, they maintain their traditions and ensure that their way of life remains unaltered by modern advancements. Amish transportation and the role of tradition. Among the different Amish groups, there exists a spectrum of beliefs regarding the use of modern technology, particularly when it comes to transportation. The more progressive New Order Amish sometimes allow limited exceptions to the traditional ban on automobile ownership. However, the most conservative groups, such as the Old Order Amish, strictly prohibit community members from owning or driving cars. This restriction is not necessarily tied to a direct theological principle, but rather to the community's fundamental commitment to preserving a simple lifestyle, free from modern distractions and dependencies. The Amish see automobiles as a potential threat to their close-knit way of life, as they could encourage travel beyond the community and weaken their strong sense of local interconnectedness. Instead, they continue the centuries-old practice of using horse-drawn buggies, a tradition that dates back to their early settlements. This method of transportation symbolizes their dedication to maintaining a lifestyle that aligns with their core values of humility, separation from the world, and reliance on communal support. The unique traditions of Amish weddings. Amish weddings are deeply rooted in tradition and reflect their values of modesty, simplicity. Unlike mainstream weddings, which often take place in churches or venues, Amish weddings are typically held in the home of the bride's family. Traditionally, weddings occur on Tuesdays or Thursdays in the late fall, after the harvest season, allowing ample time for preparation and ensuring that guests can attend without interfering with farm work. However, in modern times, the increasing number of couples getting married has led to weddings being scheduled year-round and on other days of the week. Courtship among the Amish is discreet and kept relatively private. Couples do not make their engagement public until just a few weeks before the wedding. This secrecy is not due to shame or secrecy, but rather a cultural practice that allows the couple to prepare without undue attention. Once the engagement is revealed, wedding preparations begin in earnest. The bride selects fabric and colors for her wedding dress, which is not the typical white gown seen in mainstream culture. Instead, Amish brides wear a dress in one of the approved colors of their specific Amish group. The wedding party, including attendants, similar to bridesmaids and groomsmen, also wear coordinated outfits in the same colors. Even the meal servers have matching attire, chosen by the bride. The Amish wedding service closely resembles a traditional Amish worship service, with the bishop and ministers presiding over the ceremony. The couple takes their vows before the congregation, focusing on their lifelong commitment to faith, family, and community, rather than elaborate displays of affection or grandeur. Following the ceremony, the community comes together for a celebratory meal. Amish weddings are large gatherings with anywhere from 200 to 300 guests in attendance. Because of the sheer number of people, a large team of women assists with preparing the meal. In some cases, the wedding may be held at a neighbor's house to accommodate the space needed for dining and food preparation. Temporary cooking tents are often set up outside to house portable stoves and cooking stations. The wedding meal typically consists of traditional Amish fare, including fried or broasted chicken, hingle flesh, mashed potatoes, grumbata mush, gravy, vegetables, and an assortment of pies and desserts. The popularity of Amish wedding cuisine has even led to a cottage industry, with some local markets selling Amish wedding foods. One charming tradition that follows the meal is the distribution of wedding favors. In some Amish communities, the bride and groom walk among their guests, handing out baskets of candy as a token of appreciation. This allows them to personally greet and thank each attendee. As the evening progresses and guests begin to leave, a smaller group remains for the evening meal, marking a more intimate conclusion to the day's events. Unlike mainstream honeymoon traditions, Amish newlyweds do not immediately leave for a private trip. Instead, they typically spend their first night in the home of the bride's parents. In some Amish groups, an amusing tradition takes place the next morning. The couple must wash their clothes together, symbolizing the beginning of their life as husband and wife. However, their friends often have a little fun at their expense. Pranks are a common feature of Amish weddings, with young friends engaging in playful mischief. Some might relocate the couple's bed into a field, complete with a lantern on a nightstand to guide them to it. Others might hide the washing machine or arrive in the early hours for an impromptu serenade to keep the couple awake. These lighthearted antics are all in good fun and serve to create fond memories for the newlyweds. After the wedding, many Amish couples do not immediately move into their own home. Instead, it is common for them to live with one set of parents for a period of time, allowing them to save money before purchasing, renting, or building a home of their own. During this transition period, the bride may continue working outside the home, maintaining a cleaning business, or working in a local shop before eventually settling into her role as a homemaker and mother. The Amish way of life is often misrepresented or misunderstood by those outside the community. However, their customs and traditions reflect a deep commitment to faith, family, and community. From the use of horse-drawn buggies to the sacred period of Rumspringa and the uniquely simple yet profound wedding customs, these traditions help maintain their cultural identity in an ever-changing world. If you found this insight into Amish life interesting, be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more fascinating content on unique traditions and cultures.